I realized that all the vehicles that I reviewed thus far are out of reach. 787B, they don't make those anymore. The 570S, you have to take out a house mortgage to get. And the Y era, you'd have to take out 3 mortgages in order to get that. So how about we dial it back to a vehicle that is a little bit more obtainable, and in my opinion, represents the country that I'm from. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Ford Mustang. Specifically the 6th gen Ford Mustang. This was built in 2015, which was 10 years ago. I don't think I need to go too much into detail on the history of the Ford Mustang. Ford made a pony car that had performance, style, had 4 seats, and it was affordable to the average consumer. And the rest is history. So instead of giving you a boring history lesson, how about I tell you my own personal connection to this American sports car? Though I never owned a Mustang, my father sure did. And no, it's not this one that's behind me. This is way too cool for him. Same gen, different model. This was the only Fox body Mustang I could find on the Nexus store. I guess nobody wants to make 80s crap boxes. I wonder why. So after nagging my father for 3 days, he eventually looked through some old boxes and found these. You have no idea how happy these pictures make me. This right here, this was the exact vehicle he drove. This was his red 1980s Ford Mustang. It's the Field Crisis Mustang. This was originally his cousin's car, which his parents bought off of them so that my dad could drive to college. Even though it was under his parents' name, he was still responsible for the fuel expense, the repairs, and any maintenance. He'd always tell me stories about it, like this was before the era of clear coat. So you always had to put a wax layer on, and whenever he'd wax it, he'd be pulling more red up than he was putting wax down. And there was the other time they got into an accident, and he told the officer that he hit the other person, even though it wasn't his fault. And he was the one who ended up getting a ticket. And he went to go fight it, the other person didn't show up. This was the era when you didn't have to show up for traffic violations. Can't do that anymore. That's illegal. And there was that time that the transmission blew up. And because my father didn't have the money to buy a new transmission, his parents ended up having to pay for it. This was the only time that his parents ever paid for repairs for his Mustang. Through some unfortunate circumstances, the Malibu was unfortunately involved in a wreck and is totaled. It's currently sitting in a junkyard being torn apart. Paid by the other insurance company, we were able to get a rental car. I will never forget how this interaction went down. So me and my dad arrive at the Enterprise rental place. We say who we are, and then dude behind the counter grabs 3 keys and he begins showing us the vehicles that are on the lot. We had the option between 3 vehicles: a Kia Forte, a Ford Mustang, and the Ford Mustang. We didn't even get to the third option. My dad chose the Ford Mustang without a second thought. It was a convertible soft top, by the way. It was also winter. We had a convertible soft top Mustang in the middle of winter. It was unfortunately not a 5-out, it was an EcoBoost, but man, did it still kick. Punch it. Even though it's just a little 4-cylinder, it still pressed you back in your seat. Now, enough yapping about my father. Let's actually talk about the vehicle I've been taunting with since the beginning. Hiding behind this silly emblem is a 5-liter Coyote V8. It has an aluminum block and head with dual overhead cams, 4 valves per cylinder. It makes 453 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 400 pound-feet of torque at 4,250 RPM. This can be paired to either a 6-speed auto or a manual transmission, but knowing all you guys, I'm sure I know which one you're gonna pick. It can go from 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds and has a top speed of, my research does not tell me. So how about we test that for ourselves instead? Thanks, me. The Mustang in its entirety weighs about 3,705 pounds, depending on options, with a wheelbase of 107.1 inches. Nowadays, I'm seeing that a lot of the V8 models will still run you about 30 grand, but it seems like many of these were only taken out once in a millennium. This one has 100,000 miles and it's still about 20 grand. I suppose if you're really in the market for a V8 Mustang, then getting a used one might be worth it. I don't know. My insurance would kill me if I got one, but maybe one day. I think the first time I saw the facelift for this Mustang was either Forza Motorsport 5 or Forza Horizon 2, and I didn't like it. I thought the Viperize looked dumb. But this was also coming from someone who fell in love with the iconic blue and silver Mustang from the Need for Speed movie. And after 10 years, oh god, that was about 10 years ago. 10 years later, I think that the Viperize go really well with the modern Mustang. I take back my childish assessment that I made while playing Forza Horizon 2. However, I do still miss the integrated fog lights that were in the grille of every single previous generation. As somebody who really likes rally, I found that the integrated fog lights were very stylish while also retaining a sense of ruggedness. If I could, I too would also stick funny lights in the center of my grille. And now this leads us to the side profile. Very Mustang, especially this body line right here. I don't know, there's nothing really interesting to talk about on the side other than maybe the 5.0 badge and the frameless windows, which are a nice touch. Just don't smudge them or someone's gonna get pissed off. And now this brings us to the back side of the Ford Mustang. It still reigns of classical Mustang with the triple taillights and the big GT logo, but it still has a sense of European design despite not really being sold in Europe. Jeez, that slid to the ground. American sports car interiors have never been something to write home about. A lot of them can come off feeling a little bit cheap, such as this vehicle and its off-the-shelf climate vents, which will break after 5 years. But even without all the luxuries of a BMW, it still feels very comfortable in here. Like these bucket seats, these are very comfortable. Unless you've been bestowed with the tragic fate of being sent to the back seats. I get that pony cars are supposed to be practical with the rear seats, but these seem more like an insult. It's kind of like putting baby in the corner. Ah, the gauge cluster. Back when people actually made vehicles with ingenuity and a sense of dignity in mind, instead of sticking a dumb iPad in the center. Even though we have the small screen in the center showing you just basic information. To the left, you have your tachometer, and to the right, you have your ground speed, not to be confused with your airspeed. And if we move to the right, you'll see that we have our oil pressure gauge and our vacuum. I'm pretty sure this vehicle is naturally aspirated, but I guess if you need it, you need it. In conclusion, I feel if there were a vehicle to represent the United States, it would be the Ford Mustang. The Ford Mustang is modular. It used to come with 3 different engines, just like 3 branches of government. It keeps tradition with its body lines and its engine, but is experimental with its technology. Specifically, this model has been influenced by European design, falling back on the mixing pot that is the United States. You see them everywhere, but that doesn't make them any less special. But most importantly, at least to me, it's part of my heritage. If I were to buy a proper sports car, God forbid today, I think I would go with a vehicle like the Ford Mustang. Or if I had a bit more dough in my pockets, I think I would go with the C7 Corvette. I think I just found the next vehicle I'm going to review. I'd like to thank you for watching, or whatever the hell that was. This video was highly experimental on my part. I had a bunch of different ideas that coincided to just one video. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I took Doug DeMuro style and I was using that for a good chunk of time. A lot of people did not like that. They're saying, hey, you're copying his format. That's fine, but we'd like to see you go into your own direction. And do I say that? Hell yeah, I'll definitely do that. So I pulled inspiration from Hagerty Media, Top Gear, and if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty, the Grand Tour. I like the way all those are formatted, and I wanted to do something similar. So if you did enjoy watching, whatever that was, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you so please. You can tell me what you liked, you didn't like, maybe would like to see me change in the future, or perhaps a vehicle you'd like to see me review in the future. So until then, my name is Future, and I'll see you in the distant travels. Bye-bye.